club has what some might see as a strange fascination with death, skulls and bones. There's the chants too, difficult to hear first of all, but including the devil equals death and death equals death. These rituals have been honed over centuries, giving the society a weird set of traditions, rules and secrets. For example, initiates are known as neophytes, outsiders are called barbarians, and the number 322 is sacred.
Comings and goings indicated drugs were being dealt. When the agents observed the transaction outside the house, they quickly moved in.
You're hurting my arm! Get off me! Get it out! Let's check the back room here.
Two teenage women were discovered inside the house, their hands covered with blood.
Tell us what happened here.
On the wall, written in what appeared to be blood, were the words, "Release the fiend that lies within you."
Frank, I want to open this box. Come on, girls.
Candles, bizarre necklaces, satanic Bibles, and other evidence of devil worship were strewn around the house. When a box was opened, agents were shocked to find the contents were not drugs, but a fully severed human head. The blood on the neck was still warm. Further investigation revealed the aftermath of a particularly grisly homicide. Though the young women refused to talk to the officers, it was apparent they were involved in some sort of ritualistic murder. Though the agents had seen the bloody aftermath of many cult activities, this was the first time they had ever heard of a victim being sacrificed and the head sold for profit. As the agents moved through the house, the horror continued to unfold.
Frank, we got another bedroom over here on the right. Got lots of drugs in there, boys, too.
In the bedroom, satanic symbols and a bed apparently used as a sacrificial altar were discovered. In the middle of the bed was a chalice filled with what was certainly human blood.
Real sick. Is that blood in there? That's human blood. Better have the lab come down here and analyze it. There's a hypodermic.
But the discovery of a videotape hidden in a chest of drawers provided the ultimate litany of horror and a shocking insight into the frenzied insanity of the cult had actually videotaped the grisly murder in order to train future cult members in the ghoulish art of human sacrifice. The search of the cult's property revealed body parts indicating 28 people had been murdered at the house. In testimony at a pretrial hearing, one of the cult members insisted that sacrifices were necessary, and the heads of the victims were sold to fellow cultists for use in ceremonies honoring Satan. No one knows how many members of this cult remain at large, and authorities hold out little hope for recovery of the victims' heads.
This is Gina Romano, Edge Correspondent. Today I'm here with Debra Hunter Pitts. Debra is the founder of Militia One, which is an undercover organization fighting Nazi and Satanist takeover of the United States. Debra is here to tell her story. Debra?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for coming forward. I salute your courage. Why don't you start by telling the listeners your story, your background, where you were born, how you ended up with your stepmother and father, and how they were involved with a satanic group in Missouri.
The best I remember, I was was real little. I was preschool, like maybe 3 years old. And I had a real mother and a twin sister. And my mother was not real smart, but she lived with her parents, and she was an unwed mother. And the sheriff wanted us. He was a Nazi, which people didn't know it until they had a problem with him and found out real fast that you don't have law enforcement to turn to, you know. So he sent Helen around, since she was in the same neighborhood, to start harassing my mother. And they put a microphone, I guess, in the attic because the sheriff was screaming, the girls are evil, kill them, you know, chop them up, throw them in the river. And her not being just, well, having some mental problems, I guess it's okay to say that. She did get the butcher knife. She did believe what she was hearing, that this is the voice of God. And I remember it was lightning, and I said, that's not God, it's the sheriff. And it just kind of stunned her, and she realized that it was the sheriff's voice. And so the sheriff started showing up and just kept harassing her, and Helen, she kept coming around harassing her, and it didn't do any good to try to call the police because the sheriff would show up, you know, and you can't complain about certain people. Like we couldn't complain about Helen because it was dangerous to do that. So they had already schemed to take us away from Mother, and we didn't realize what was going on. They didn't put us in foster care where we were treated right. I went straight to Helen, who was unmarried, and that didn't happen in them days, but she was a cocaine addict and said to be a prostitute, and she was a Satanist and actually selling the cocaine for law enforcement. And then my twin sister went to a different family.
What happened after you and your sister split, and what happened with your new living arrangements? What happened to you every day? What was your life like living with a Satanist?
Preschool for a couple years, I was with Helen and her parents. Her parents were good people that was God-fearing. They believed what Helen told them, that I had a mother that was going to kill me, and she offered to take me in for a while, right? This is what they thought. And one day, I was sitting on her dad's lap, and he was a God-fearing man telling me about the Bible, and he said, you know, he explained to me why I couldn't go back to my mother, and I said, that's not the way it happened, and I told him, and he was so shocked at what I was telling him, and he realized that his daughter, Helen, was involved in something, and he couldn't get any answers. You know, he couldn't really figure out exactly what was going on. But then, about the time I started school, about 62, then she married one of the other Satanists, and his name was Jack Chittenden. And so from then on, I lived with them until 73. I stayed approximately 11 years with him, and it was being beat up every day. And it was, of course, rape and torture sessions, and it was just brutal.
And what happened to your relationship with your sister, your twin?
We wasn't allowed contact, but once in a great while, they would bring her around in her miniskirt and stuff, and she was actually forced into child prostitution. And I just stayed there with the people that brutalized me. And if they mentioned that I had a twin sister, I had to ignore them and just act like I don't know her, because it was better for us to make our plans in the future if they don't know we're going to get together someday.
Well, it's probably very good that you do that. But when you were a child, you were no longer allowed to really see her unless they brought her to you?
Right. And it was only very few times that they brought her around, and we tried not to speak. You know, we just tried to kind of ignore each other.
Now, your birth mother, it sounds like she was a victim of what we call organized stalking today, you know, set up to make her look as though she was mentally ill, to get you children. Many organized stalking victims are portrayed as mentally ill to take away their lives, and that's what it sounds like happened with you and your mother.
Yes, and when she was hearing the voices, she thought that she was hearing God. And these voices at night, where she got up and she was going to kill